wealth of knowledge in health and nutrition. He has been a medical doctor, and he has great experience with our products and knowledge. So he's the perfect person to ask to come and talk right now.
Great, thanks. Okay. Well, can you all see the screen here? I want to be able to see that because I'm going to talk you through these slides. And so, is this pretty much, in terms of health and wellness, is this pretty much what we generally aim for? We want to feel great, we want to look good, we want to be happy. Does that make sense? And how many people use food to try and keep themselves well and looking good? And yeah. So the thing with, I call these the main instruments of mass destruction. For those of you who can't see, it's a knife, fork and spoon. So it's really about learning how to do that. And there's a great professor, he's a professor of sports and exercise science in South Africa, a guy called Tim Noakes. He's done a number of marathons. And he says you either learn to eat well or you die badly. And it's your choice. So he's that blunt. I love that about him. So food is made up of, can you all see that? It's made up of macronutrients and micronutrients. I didn't realize how small this TV screen was going to be when I was coming down. So I'll talk about macronutrients first. That's the proteins, fats and carbohydrates. Are you aware there's a massive argument about protein, carbohydrates and fats at the moment? You know, we've been told for 40 years that carbohydrates are the best things to be having, fats are the demons. And now we're starting to see, like it was in Time magazine, it was in The Listener, fats are starting to be applauded for what they are.
On the radio today.
What was that?
It was on the national radio today.
Today, okay. So my preference is, in terms of eating, I think you need to be looking at a low carb, high fat diet, and it's also called a ketogenic diet. So you can't read this, but if you've got diabetes, hypertension, overweight, high triglycerides, metabolic syndrome, which is a mixture of those things, epilepsy, disorders of carbohydrate metabolism, that's pretty rare. But if you've got, those things are pretty common, you definitely will benefit from a ketogenic, low carb, high fat diet. Whereas if you've got these things, if you've got dementia, Parkinson's, ADHD, autism, migraine, stroke, MS, multiple sclerosis, PCOS, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome, a bunch of other things, autoimmune disorders, which is what Jerry was originally had, osteoarthritis, even bipolar and schizophrenics can benefit from a ketogenic diet. So that will probably benefit. If you've got, I know there's one person in this room has porphyria, which is a very rare condition of enzymes. Those don't need to be on a ketogenic diet. So that's the, so in terms of looking after your body, that's the main thing I recommend. And then there's things you need to add leverage to diet. And so that takes us back to this micronutrients thing. So food is the protein, carbohydrate, fat, and water. And then it's vitamins, minerals, trace minerals, all those kind of things. And this guy is a guy called Steve Grundy. He's another doctor and specializes in, ageless medicine, basically. And he says our bodies are genetically programmed to continue eating until we consume a bare amount of micronutrients. So you might, the problem is that, who's heard of soil depletion? Yep. So soils are depleted of nutrients. New Zealand's famously, poor in things like iodine and selenium, but a bunch of other things as well. So we just don't have the minerals in the soil that our bodies actually need. So if you look at that Steve Grundy's idea that you'll continue to feel hungry until you satisfy your body's need for micronutrients, that's one of the reasons we actually overeat today. We're eating lots of food that don't have those micronutrients in them. And so my preference, I've always been, I prefer to have, rather than pills made in a lab, I'd rather have real whole food. And who's tried the Body Balance? Has anyone not tried it? Had a drink of it? Good. So this is seaweed and aloe vera, 9 different kinds of wild seaweed, and organic, the best quality organic aloe vera you ever find. It's about 3% or 5% by dry weight for seaweed. Once you reconstitute it with the aloe vera, it's about 25% of that bottle of seaweed. Pretty powerful brew. And the other good thing about that is it says here is that you know, if you eat a mineral in a whole food chelated form, it doesn't have to go through concentration gradients, it doesn't have to fight to get through the ion channels of the concentration gradients. So basically you get everything that's in that product. And that's what makes such a big difference. Cold processed. Oh, here we go. So these are the main key benefits people report. And I've noticed most of these. The whole, you know, increased energy. I'll read them out and see if those of you who've been drinking Body Balance for some time, you can raise your hands as well. So increased energy and vitality, feelings of well-being, mental clarity and focus. How many people notice that? For me, I noticed that within the first few weeks. Anyone else have any? Yep? Okay. Improved, promotes digestive health. I never really had a general problem I was aware of, but people are found that. How long did that take?
A couple of days.
A couple of days.
A month.
A month? Yeah.
Probably
Okay.
a week.
A week, okay. Reduced hunger cravings. So remember that thing about, you know, your body will continue to force you to eat until you get a bare minimum of micronutrients? That's what that's about. For me, that happened 3 or 4 months into Body Balance. All of a sudden, I just couldn't finish my porridge one day. I thought I was getting sick, you know, because I was never off my food. And I didn't get sick, and I just kept on going. My food intake literally dropped 25% overnight. And that was 13 years ago. It just happened like that.
Mm.
So, how many people also have noticed reduced hunger cravings?
Yeah.
So for some people it deals to their sugar cravings. That didn't do that to me, but for some people it does. Hormonal health, I noticed that with, you know, I don't have them, but I'm with people that do, periods and things like that. Menopause makes that a lot easier. Better, how long did that take? Better hormonal health, was it a few months or? Within a month?
Yeah.
How about that? Promotes better sleep. I was always a very wakeful sleeper, and within the first year I was noticing I'm sleeping really well. And anybody better sleep, anyone? Yeah. And immune system health. I used to get 3 or 4 colds a year regularly. Some of them were pretty bad. We had one that went through the family. It took, I remember, 7 weeks. It wiped all of us out one by one. And just recently, just this year, because my daughter's a teenager now, so I've been basically force feeding her this for the last 17 years. And she decided this year she didn't need it. And she has had the most colds I've ever known. And she went away, she was on the Glasgow, she went to a youth festival dance in Glasgow over the school holidays just passed, and she'd had a cold for 2 weeks before that. She was so sick over there, she was doing these things, she would cough so much she'd throw up. She was a Billy Elliot show. And then she came back and feeling a bit better, and then she just last week got back a week, about 10 days ago, and this weekend she went down with a flu. And the temperature was up at 39 degrees. You know, so, and because it was getting close to 40, I thought, well, I put a mattress down on the floor and we slept beside her so she had some company. And I also didn't want her fitting and not having anybody, because up to 40, that's pretty dangerous. And and normally, you know, that whole thing, you catch colds and flus by being in a small contained space with people who have them. And that's how good my immune system is. I used to get 3 or 4 colds a year. I used to be so susceptible. And I could sleep in the same room as her, coughing and spluttering all night. And here I am still today, living proof that my immune system's, you know, dealing with things. So that's a phenomenal benefit. Anyone else have, you know? Yep. Okay. So that's Body Balance. So real key, core, foundation nutrition for any age. Who's heard of visceral fat? Visceral fat is that fat inside your body. Once your waistline starts expanding as you get older, that's visceral fat.
And all these pregnant males.
Yeah. But basically, it's toxic fat inside your abdomen. It's not the stuff you can grab hold of is your subcutaneous fat. Visceral fat is inside the abdomen, through the arteries. That's what kills you. And what it does is it actually creates its own hormonal system, which leads to the laydown of more visceral fat. And it says, Robert Lustig, I love him, he says, visceral fat is the fulcrum on which your health teeters. And it's not a fat person's thing. Just because you're skinny doesn't mean to say you're off the hook. Because 80% of obese people have visceral fat, whereas 40% of normal weight people have visceral fat. So you can be a normal weight. This is an MRI scan, so you can see the visceral fat in here. All that white stuff is the visceral fat. Just surrounds the organs. And so basically, how many people have heard that someone's never been sick a day in their life, they get to 45 and drop down dead? You heard of that story?
Yeah.
That's visceral fat in action. So it knocks 15 years off your life. So this is so how does food affect us so much? So basically, food affects our biochemistry. You can't see the thing at the moment. Food affects our biochemistry. What's going on in our body, and our biochemistry then affects